Hi everyone, this week's declaration is I am tending the garden of my heart. And so we are reporting live from the garden because I've learnt a lot from this little flower bed. So when we moved into this house, this flower bed was actually pretty overgrown. Yet in our contract it was said that we had to do the weeding. Now, when we came to do the weeding, we didn't know what was weeds and what was plants. Dom and I are not experienced gardeners. So we had to call on the help of Dom's dad to come and help us discern what was a weed and what was a plant. And it now looks very different and pretty sparse in comparison. You've got a few roses popping up, some pretty orange things there. But before, that whole flower bed was totally full. And honestly, some of the things in the flower bed that were apparently weeds and we pulled out, I thought were really beautiful. Some were useful. There was some mint in there. I like some mint. There was what looked like a poppy, but it was growing on the driveway in a random place rather than the flower bed. All that to say, our hearts are like gardens. This is what we say at I'm So Many Things. Our hearts are like fertile soil. They grow whatever you plant in them. Plant bad seed leads to bad fruit and weeds. Plant good seed, it leads to good fruit that lasts for generations to come. So when it gets to that weeding time of taking the lies out, these bad seeds out of the soil of our heart to make room for the good seed to grow, we sometimes need a bit of help because sometimes these weeds have been there for so long that they seem so familiar and we think, no, those are actually plants, they feel good, they even look good. And this is where the Bible is so helpful to us. Like us having to bring in Master Gardener Johnny Muir, when we're dealing with the truths and lies in our heart, we can come to God's word, which doesn't change. It's the same yesterday, today, and forever, and say, God, does this thing I'm believing about myself line up with your word? And if it doesn't, chances are it's a weed and it needs to get out of there, because just one stronghold of wrong belief can hold us back from fulfilling our destiny. It's as simple, but as weeds can be as simple but as powerful as that. So I bless you in the gardening process of your heart this week to have that discernment between truth and lies, to let God search your heart and show you where things just don't fit anymore. And really listen for his voice. Don't just go by your own thinking, because as I said, many of these weeds can look beautiful and many of these lies can be deceptive. They can feel familiar, they can feel true, they can even feel helpful. Little example, okay, so for me, back in the day, I was really struggling with eating disorders and my identity. So much my identity was built in my body image. So one of the lies I believed was my body is not good enough and I will be better, more acceptable, more lovable if I look a certain way, if I'm skinnier. And so that led me to really exercise a lot, spend a lot of time sculpting my body. On the outside, you could say that looked good. You know, the fruit looked good. I was looking healthy, slim, toned, blah, 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 blah. But the root of that was rotten. That was definitely a weed. There was a seemingly attractive looking flower plant growing out of a very bad seed. So I hope that helps explain what I mean when I talk about weeds that look good, flowers that look deceptive, fruit that looks deceptive but comes from a very rotten place. Pray that prayer from Psalm 139, that vulnerable prayer. God, search my heart, know me, see my anxious thoughts, see if there's any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. Give him that permission to search your heart and just see what happens.